So we've seen intuitively what we want to do with NP completeness. And now we should do the work of defining in detail what we mean by all these terms that I used informally on the previous slides. And let's start with this. You can think about it. I'll set it up just as a oops. Okay. I'll leave the slide with the answers. We'll see the results in a second. Should be a few more people in the room than have voted. Anyone still thinking? Let's see the results. And I've allowed various things as correct answers because the point of the question is that it's not a very well-defined question. You could either say it takes constant time because adding to integers, say, what's people's famous most well-supported programming language? Python. Yeah, Python is a really bad example because Python has these built-in smart integers that grow in, yeah. So C and Java, anything that's a bit closer to the silicon makes this point clearer. If you have an int in C or Java, a machine word in the computer, you can add those up in constant time independent on how big the numbers actually are, right? It is true. And with 64 bits or even bigger long longs, it's big numbers in a way. On the other hand, what I mentioned about Python, that if you make the numbers bigger and bigger, they will eventually overflow a single word. And Python is smart enough, or is programmed to be like that it then automatically swaps out the representation of this integer by effectively a string of the digits. And if you do that, then adding up to numbers that are represented as strings of digits, you have to at least read the numbers. So it's going to be proportional to the number of digits no matter what, even if you don't do anything smart. And addition is actually not smart, so it doesn't need to do more work than that. So Fine. What does that mean now, right? Shouldn't there be a well-defined answer? That's the point of this question, to get you thinking about this. In this case, there's a well-defined answer. That's the word RAM. We'll come to that. But whenever you talk about computation, and whenever we talk about computation in the context of algorithm theory, we're thinking of asymptotics. We're making things grow bigger and bigger because interesting comparisons are usually only possible for the limit of input sizes going to infinity. But if you do that, you always have to think about these weird questions, inevitably. Okay, to cut the story short there, let's have a look at the solution for this specific case. More broadly in this module, we'll talk about complexity classes, which are sets of problems that have algorithms of a certain kind, or that allow algorithms with a certain efficiency. We had P and NP. P was the class of all problems that have polynomial time algorithms in the simplified version. Now, if we can't even decide on what addition should take as time, how would that make for a sensible definition? How can I classify problems by having some algorithm without saying what algorithms are allowed and what costs they have? And so it's true in general, there is no such universal thing. You have to always say what is the model of computation and what costs do you assign an algorithm. Otherwise, this question makes no sense. And so we have to fix a specific machine model. It turns out that the question of P and NP is very robust against many of these changes and will make sense irrespective of many of the specific definitions. But you still need to pick some of the definitions to get started, and then you can prove that other models are not much different. I think it would be a misunderstanding to say, oh, because P and NP are so robust, which is the outcome of a deliberation with many concrete definitions, it would be a mistake to say, oh, then it doesn't matter to define it properly. Because then some of the other bits where it does depend on details get very vague and unclear. So what's a machine model? It defines what is an algorithm. So what are programs? What can I write down as computational recipe? How they are described. Some sort of programming language is usually associated with this. And crucially, what are the costs of an execution? That's also part of the machine model. And this is what I took from efficient algorithms. They should be detailed and powerful enough to reflect what actual machines do, while at the same time unify the specific iteration this year, and hopefully be also simple to analyze. That's often hard to achieve all three of them at the same time. But for algorithm theory, there is a standard model for complexity analysis that gets a good compromise between those three goals. And that's the word RAM, or the random access machine for short. I'll describe the model briefly before we then actually pivot away from it. But I think it's worth having seen this, because this is the solution to how to properly define this cost of addition. Okay? It's also fairly close to actual hardware still, unlike the Turing machine that we'll look at afterwards. So a random access machine has an unlimited memory. You should think of this as being as big as you need it, and when you need it bigger, you just add another piece of memory to your computer. You grow the computer as the need for it to grow grows. So it's unbounded in principle. Any specific computer that you can build will, of course, be finite. But we're studying the limit of making this bigger and bigger. Okay, one really big memory with cells of numbers, a fixed number of registers, say 100. Number doesn't matter too much, but it doesn't grow. And then each of these memory cells and registers stores an integer with w bits. And crucially, this parameter w also grows with the input size. That's a key assumption of the model, and that's what makes it sensible. Even though it feels strange to have a machine grow with its input, this is historically what happened to computers. So it's not so absurd after all. So if you have w bits, you can represent numbers in this range. Let's stick with positive integers. You can simulate all else based on that. W is called the word size. That's what W stands for. A word in a computer is just the piece of bits that it can work with in constant time or in one cycle. And the typical assumption is that this word size grows logarithmically with the input size. This makes sense from different reasons, from different perspectives. It means that you can store a pointer to a place in memory in one word or in a constant number of words. It means that it also reflects a bit how historically these word sizes have grown. That's what the machine looks like. And then we need to define what programs can be. And these are essentially a low-level assembly language. So there's instructions to read something from memory and write it into a register and write it back. There's operations to compute only on registers. You can do the usual arithmetic operations, and you can do logical operations. And then there's conditional jumps. And that's pretty much it. That's close to a RISC instruction set that some computers have. Intel CPUs are a bit of a mess, but ARM, what's in your phones, is not too far away from this instruction set like this. I'm defining the model in this detail because now we can answer this question of what should an addition cost? Well, if the numbers are small enough to fit in one word or a constant number of words, it does take constant time to add them up. Whereas if the numbers get bigger, you have to divide the size of the number by w. That's the answer. And the question is, are the numbers part of your input size or not? That's for you to decide when you define the problem. The running time of such a program is just the number of instructions that it executes, roughly the number of cycles if you want. And the space cost is the total number of memory cells that were ever touched. Okay? I think the definition maybe is, depending on how much background in computer architecture you have, maybe it's a natural definition, maybe it's a bit awkward. That's the standard definition that seems to make most sense for studying efficient algorithms. And I guess we'll leave it with some small concrete example what a program here can look like. And the point here is not so much to read this in detail. This is an implementation of bubble sort from Don Knuth's books, which I quoted it earlier as one of those books that many people have in their shelves without ever reading. And I guess one reason is that he writes his algorithms in assembly language that's not so dissimilar to this. I basically could translate his code on his hypothetical machine one-to-one to our made-up RAM machine, and I didn't have to invent more detail. So he studies algorithms really at this low level of detail. We don't normally do that, and we won't do that in this module. What we actually do in this module we'll come to tomorrow. The word RAM is great because it reflects, at least for the CPU cost, lots of actual architectures. Luckily for this module, for the coarse distinction that we are after, polynomial time versus probably not polynomial, a lot of the details in the word RAM model are not so important, and we can get away with a at least theoretically more clean model of computation.